מזמור השיר ליום השבת, מזמור השיר ליום השבת. שימחני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. הגדלו מעשיך אדוני מאוד עמדו, מחשבותיך מזמור שיר, מזמור I shall not fear at all.
Esa es. Ta, ta, ra, ra, ta.
Yay la 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 la. Yay la 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 la. Yay 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 la 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 la. Yay la 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 la. Yay 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 la 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 la.
Shabbat Shalom. This week we began a new book in the Torah. We began the book of Leviticus. And on Wednesday afternoon, I was with a number of our Sinai families doing a Torah to Go program. We bring the Torah to their home and we do a little program. And I had rolled out the Torah and was teaching the children and truthfully the adults as well about some of the things of the Torah. And we rolled the Torah and one of the kids noticed that there was a big space in the Torah. I said, oh, very good observation there. Do you know what that means? Of course, he didn't know what that meant, but I said, it means that we're ending one book and there's 5 lines of space before we start another book. And I thought about that space. I thought about that blank space and what it represents for not just for the Torah, but for us, and what Shabbat means to us as a blank space in between what comes before and what comes after. That Shabbat should be a time when we clear our minds, we clear our hearts, we clear our bodies, and just be as a blank space. So we begin Shabbat as we begin each week. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad how good and how beautiful is it to be together and to celebrate Shabbat.
הנה מה טוב ובנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. 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 שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ובנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ובנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ובנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ובנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Page 127. Each of us enters this moment with a different need. Some hearts are full of peace and gratitude, overflowing with love and joy. They are eager to confront the day to make the world a better place. They are recovering from illness or have escaped misfortune. We rejoice with them. Some hearts ache with sorrow. Disappointments weigh heavily on them. Families have been broken. Loved ones lie on a bed of pain. Death has taken a cherished loved one. May our presence and caring bring them comfort. Some hearts are embittered. Ideals are betrayed and mocked. Answers sought in vain. Life has lost its meaning and value. May the knowledge that we too are searching restore our hope and renew our faith. Page 131, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song.
Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Sing unto all the earth and your song. I will sing unto God and your song. Sing unto God and we all sing along. All the earth and your song unto God. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai עלו שדי בכל אשר פה, אז ירננו כל הצייר. לפני אדוני קיווה קיווה לשפוט הארץ, לשפוט תבל וצדק ועמים ואמונתו.
We welcome Shabbat as we welcome a bride. Dade, page 138.
לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת קבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת קבלה.
שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, ישמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ששמו תפארת ולתהילה.
לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת וקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת וקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם דסוכה. סוף מעשה ומחשה בתחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת וקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת וקבלה.
התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בעורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי. כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה.
לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת וקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת וקבלה.
We rise, we turn to the door, we welcome the Shabbat bride.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמונה סגולה. מוהי כלה, מוהי כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת קבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת קבלה. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, page 140. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. כל לעומדות לאדוני לזמר לשמך העליון. יגיד בבוקר חסדך אמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלינה ולעלי היגיון בחינות. together. Mizmor shir leyom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor shir leyom ha-Shabbat. Ki simachtani Adonai beforecha v'ma'aseh yadecha ha'adlen maganalu ma'aseh Adonai ve'odamtu machshevotecha mizmor shir leyom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor shir leyom ha-Shabbat.
We're going to invite Yael Litwack to light our Shabbat candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Page 146, we rise to praise God, to whom our praise is due.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruchu et Adonai ha-mevorach.
Baruch Adonai ha-mevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared?
Page 148.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Yom balayla, kulem or mipnei choshen, kulem or mipnei choshen. light, וחושך פני יום.
Turns to light.
Road into dark, road into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Road into dark, road into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom balayla, goleh or mipnei
Turns to light.
goleh or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei
Turns to
or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Turning to, there we go. Turning to page 150, our reading right before Shema. It's really nice to be able to see our recent B'nai Mitzvah come and be a part of the synagogue. And it's nice to have Cash Cantor here for services. We're going to invite Cash to come up to lead us in Shema and Ve'ahavta. We will continue page 150 while he comes up onto the bima. Everlasting God, everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'chayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavcha chayom al levavecha v'shivnata v'vnecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha shaknecha uvlechtecha baderech ushakbecha uvmecha ukshartam yeodalidecha le'ot beninecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskaru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'chayitem kedoshim Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eret Mitzrayim, lechiyot lechem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem. Emet. Thank you. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
בקודש. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש. וגרם יד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו, העמידנו שומרנו והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow and pain. השכיבנו אדוני
The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat in every generation as a covenant for all time. It is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days the eternal God made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from labor and rested.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ויהיו בין בני ישראל, ויהיו בין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת
השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
כי ששת ימים, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We rise for Amidah, page 164.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו אלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק אלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא העליון גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה כל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מקלקל חיים בחסד מחייך כל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו ישנה עפר בי כמוך בעל גבורות ומיתו מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש ונגשים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festivals. So it is written in your Torah, the heaven and earth were finished and all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion.
Baruch atah Adonai, המחזיר שכינתו לציון, מודים אנחנו לך.
When we behold your heaven, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us, we mortals that you take note of us? You have made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth.
Baruch atah Adonai, הטוב שמך ולחני להודו. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. 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 כי אתה הוא מלך הדור לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך הדור לכל השלום. ושלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Before we add the prayers of our hearts to the prayers of our Siddur, we think about those of our friends and neighbors, members of our community, members of our own family who are in need of God's blessing of healing. On this Shabbat, we are especially thinking about Osvaldo Barraza, Rick Center, Elliot Citron, Howard Citron, Etta Rachel, Bat Malka Zissel, Susan Friedman, David Eisenberg, Ed Johns, Mindy Elizabeth Jones, Susan Jones, Yisrael Kolodny, Leah Tovabar, Jack Lieb, Kobe Maidenberg, Malka Bat Rivka, Shammai Ben Michael, Leslie Piken, Elka Rock, Jackie Robinson, Shaul Ben Moshe Verivka, Mark Rockfeld, Carol Scheckman, Shira Bat Avraham Basara, Suzette Schultz, Susan Devora Schwartz, Mark Byron Singer, Aryeh Tzvi Ben Sarah, Kevin Webb. Misha Berach Avatenu Avraham Yitzhak V'Yaakov V'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah. O God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, send your blessing to all those who are in need. Have mercy on them and graciously restore their health and strength. Grant them a refuah shlema, a complete healing, a healing of the body and a healing of the spirit, along with all others who are stricken. May healing come speedily, and let us say, Amen. We take a moment for silent personal prayer.
May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and for all who inhabit the earth. Page 180, Ose Shalom. Ose Shalom, Bimbrama, Uyase, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Israel, Ve'imru, Amen. Ose Shalom, Bimbrama, Uyase, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Israel, Ve'imru, Amen. May the one who makes peace above make peace for you, for me, for us, yeah. May the one who makes peace above makes peace for everyone. May the one who makes peace above makes peace for you, for me, for us, yeah. May the one who makes peace above makes peace for everyone. Ose Shalom, Bimbrama, Uyase, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Israel, Ve'imru, Amen. Ose Shalom, Bimbrama, Uyase, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Israel, Ve'imru, 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 Amen.
This Shabbat is Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat of remembering. Every year it is the Shabbat that precedes the festival of Purim. And so the question is, what is it that we Jews are called to remember? In the book of Exodus, we read about the treachery of the biblical Amalek, who attacked the Israelites as they were leaving Egypt, specifically the weakest stragglers. This leads the book of Deuteronomy to encourage subsequent generations to, quote, blot out the name of Amalek. Since Amalek's descendant was Agag and Haman was an Agagite, that makes him the descendant of Amalek. That's why we take the Grogger and we blot out Haman from our reading of the book of Esther on Purim. I've often wondered about the notion of blotting out something that we're not supposed to forget. It seems that so much of Jewish life is reminding ourselves of exactly the opposite, not to forget. In fact, never forget has become its own religious mandate. The very fabric of Jewish culture is interwoven with collective memory. The root zachor, to remember, appears no less than 169 times in the Bible. And the great Jewish historian Isaac Yerushalmi wrote in his book Haggadah and History, nowhere else is the injunction to remember felt as a religious imperative to an entire people. Each year, we imagine it was us in Egypt during the Exodus and in Jerusalem during the destruction. For Jews, history is current events. So, on this Shabbat, and with our eyes remaining focused on the war in Ukraine, I want to ask, what should we be not forgetting? As I've shared over the past 2 weeks, in the same way that we Americans need to remember some of the painful points in our history, when we mistreated those who predated us on this land, or black slaves or Japanese Americans in internment camps, we have to acknowledge the pain of Ukrainian anti-Semitism throughout history. Yet, tonight, I want to give us a new way of dealing with this. While we need to own that history and take responsibility for not forgetting it, we also don't have to be locked into it. We Jews don't believe in hereditary guilt. In fact, this week I was reminded of a piece from the Talmud that teaches, get this, some of Haman's descendants studied Torah in Bnei Brak. Some of Sisera's descendants taught children Torah in Jerusalem. And some of Sennacherib's descendants taught Torah in public. Think about what the Talmud is telling us. 3 of the most evil people in the Hebrew Bible, the reviled Haman, the Canaanite general Sisera, and the Assyrian king Sennacherib, who destroyed the northern kingdom of Israel, had descendants who not only joined the Jewish people, but were themselves great scholars and teachers. The Talmud is teaching us that evil can be redeemed. In the same way as Germany has come to terms with its past and worked to ensure a prosperous Jewish community, I would say with the election of Zelensky as prime minister, Ukraine has done a good job of doing tshuva for its anti-Semitic past. But if we are going to frame what is going on in Ukraine through the lens of memory, there are other collective memories that are important for us to consider. Reaching far back into history, I would call this a Pharaoh moment. Like Pharaoh, Putin is a leader who is blinded by his own arrogance. Like Pharaoh, Putin is willing to allow his nation to suffer from the plagues of hunger that sanctions will bring. Like Pharaoh, whose army ended up drowned in the sea, Putin is so power-hungry that he will not be able to pull back until it is too late. Many of us have thrown around the references to the Holocaust. In fact, Putin himself did so when he spoke about the denazification of Ukraine as his reason to invade. Is the Holocaust, though, an appropriate frame to discuss this? I don't think so. However, the pre-World War II frame, I think, is valuable. I'm not talking about the genocide against the Jewish people, but the beginnings of Nazism and the cowardliness of the world's leaders in their unwillingness to stand up to Hitler. I see the same thing happening today. Instituting sanctions is a step, but one that will take too long to feel enough pain. As I spoke about yesterday during our face-to-face podcast, I wondered about whether the willingness or the unwillingness to institute a no-fly zone is akin to the United States' unwillingness to bomb the train tracks leading to Auschwitz. Our response was then and is today inadequate. Our inadequacy leaves me somewhere between angry and embarrassed. But why do we need to remember? We remember these things because we learn from them so that we don't repeat our mistakes. We remember history because it helps us not deal with things in the same way. We remember our history because it calls us to be better in the future by actualizing the parallel statement, never again. Never forget leads us, or should lead us, to never again. As Paul Shapiro, the director of the Office of International Affairs at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., spoke about in a podcast earlier this week, from a Jewish perspective, never again has been used as never again should we find ourselves in the situation where we are isolated and helpless. And while I hate to bring up the racist Mayor Kahana, for him it was the idea that we will never fail to fight back if our people are attacked. When Elie Wiesel spoke about never again, it was to recognize our moral and ethical responsibility to be involved, to not be silent. Never again calls us to action. If never forget and never again never impels us into moral responsibility and then action, then they serve as nothing more than empty slogans. Which leads me to the final reference for this week. During Shabbat Zachor, we will read Parshat Vayikra, 5 chapters outlining the ancient sacrifices we used to make in the temple. One of those was the chatat, the sin offering. So we ask ourselves, what does it mean to have the sin of non-involvement? And then, what is the sacrifice that we are willing to make for the people of Ukraine? Are we willing to open our borders, our communities, even our homes to welcome the stranger, those who have nothing more than the clothes on their backs? Are we willing to pay more at the gas pump? Are we willing to make the ultimate sacrifice of some of our sons and daughters on the battlefield? I'll be honest, I don't know the answer. It feels like we are so burned out from fighting biological evil in the face of COVID and now human evil that we're paralyzed into inaction. This coming week, we will joyously celebrate Purim. And as I ready my costumes, more than one, I think about how much this holiday is about hiding our identity. Esther hides her Judaism from the king until that pivotal turning point in the Purim story at the end of chapter 4. Mordecai begs Esther to reveal her identity to King Ahasuerus and plead on behalf of the Jewish people. His plea can be reduced to 2 words: mi yodea, who knows? Mi yodea im le'et kazot higiat lamalchut. Who knows if it was not for just this moment that you became queen? These are the words that set Esther into motion, that inspired her to move from resistance to action. So I ask you, I ask our government, I ask the nations of the world, mi yodea, who knows if it was not for just this moment that you are able to exercise your agency and power? What I do know is that, like Esther, we cannot stand by and do nothing. With Aleinu, we call on God, or God really calls on us to be partners in creating that better world. So we invite you to rise, page 586 for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא עשה בנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, מקור עלינו ככל עמונה, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
We turn our thoughts to those who are no longer with us, those for whom we have only the gift of memory. We remember Ronnie Fromberg and Carol Perlman, who have died over the past 30 days. And we remember these, the yortzites of our congregant loved ones whom we have commemorated over this past week. George Berlin, Shirley Bracha, Leon Cohen, Florence Cooperman, Mildred Fogelman, Philip J. Friedman, Laura Fromberg, Lillian Mosler-Gordon, Dr. Erwin M. Clow, for whom we are dedicating not just a plaque, but the Clow Family Memorial Wall here in our sanctuary. Max Klein, Hyman Koret, Trudy Kuttner, Jenny Landau, Calvin Landau, Miriam K. Moss, Jack Muscat, Elizabeth Peterfee, Leonard Stock, Lillian Strikoff, Sarita Weiner, Pauline Walensky, Mildred Ziskin. And remember those listed below who are remembered on our memorial walls here in the sanctuary. We join together for Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. Invite the congregation to please rise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach rute v'yamlich malchute. B'chaye chon v'yomei chon v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'galau v'zman kari v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi shemei rabbah mavrach le'alam olomei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudashah.
Birichu.
Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Da milan be'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabbah min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mramav. Huyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved. As together we say, Amen. May be seated. Once again, want to wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom. Say thank you to Courtney Augusta for serving as our greeter this evening on behalf of our Board of Trustees. Thank you, Courtney. Want to say thank you to all of our service sponsors. We have so many. Say a mazel tov to Bonnie Bloom, who's sponsoring in honor of the wedding of her granddaughter, Alma Chana Holman, to Menachem Mendel Segev in Jerusalem, to Ron and Shoshana Bloom in honor of our own Marion Gordon's birthday this past week. Brian and Sage Cantor, thank you, Brian and Sage, in memory of Sage's Omama, Trudy Kuttner. Sue Clow, nice to have you with us. Sue Clow and family, in loving memory of dear Irwin. Mark and Galina Rockfeld, in memory of Paina Metushinskaya and Reza Tuninskaya. Heather and Stephen Sanford, in memory of Philip J. Friedman. And Ann Zartler and Deborah Shapiro, in loving memory of their brother-in-law, Irwin Clow. Just some announcements. You heard me reference during my sermon our face-to-face. For those of you who don't know about face-to-face, every 2 weeks, Rabbi David and I kind of go head-to-head. We pick a topic of Jewish interest, and we discuss it in a half-hour video podcast. And this past week, we discussed a little bit of what Jewish tradition offers regarding our involvement with the war in Ukraine, some of the thoughts that I didn't get to tonight. And so I encourage you, you can find that on our YouTube channel, tsnd.tv. Just literally put in your browser tsnd.tv and you will see it. There's a whole group of videos. You can see past episodes of our face-to-face program. If you would like to help the Jews of Ukraine, I'm encouraging you to, right now, the best thing that we can do is make donations. It is a humanitarian crisis. There are a number of organizations that are on the ground that are working to alleviate that, but it's really about bringing dollars to them. We can do that through the Reform Movement, through the World Union for Progressive Judaism, the Reform Movement outside of North America, their Ukraine Crisis Fund, or you can do it through the Greater Miami Jewish Federation at jewishmiami.org. I mentioned Purim is coming. It will be Wednesday night, right? Wednesday night, the 16th. This is going to be this is going to be fun. So we really encourage you to come, to be in the sanctuary, about 6 p.m., not too long. If you are going to be online, we'll be sending that out to you. I am also inviting anybody who wants to help volunteer to bake hamantashen for Wednesday night. We're going to be doing that on Tuesday morning. Yes, your own rabbi is donning his apron and going to be in the kitchen. 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Join us. You don't need to bring anything other than your two hands and be ready to make hamantashen. Reminder, Camp Sinai registration is open, and I think that's it. Oh, a reminder that it is this Sunday. Ahead. Our clocks spring forward this Sunday for, what's it called? Oh my gosh. Daylight savings. Maybe we should be saving Rabbi Lewak's brain. Daylight savings this Sunday, your clock goes forward. All right, we are going to conclude with a little song for peace. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Peace will soon come upon us, ve'al kulam, upon all, everyone. Salam, peace in Arabic. Salam, shalom, peace in Hebrew.
Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam. Shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom. Shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
We invite the congregation to rise for Kiddush and Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu v'shabbat kodesho be'avahu v'ratzon הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. לחיים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom.